Bench players talking like starters. I hate it. Started from the bottom here. Now we made it. Let's go. I'm talking about 4 players who are drafted like starters but shouldn't be. Let's go. For number one, let's talk about the receiver position. Let's talk about Brandon Aiyuk. Right now, he's being drafted as a wide receiver 3, top 36 wide receiver. Last year, he finished as a wide receiver 15. So you might be thinking, well, why shouldn't he be drafted as a wide receiver 3? Last year, he finished as a wide receiver 2, or damn near as a wide receiver 2. Well, let's look at why. The quarterback position, can we trust San Francisco's quarterbacks? You got Trey Lance, who's on the trade block, might not even be the starter. If he doesn't become the starter, we might be looking at Sam Darnold. Don't want him as a playmaker in that offense. And will Brock Purdy even be back in time to even start the season? If not, halfway through the season, you don't want to draft any of the quarterbacks because you don't know what you're going to get. You got CMC, who's going to play a full season this year. He only had about 6 games with him last year, and he still took over the offense as soon as he got there. You got Deebo Samuel, who only played 13 games last year, so I do think he's going to be back. Now, obviously, Deebo Samuel is a player who consistently gets hurt. You can say that. But you can see what he does with a full season, playing all 16 games, finishes a top 5 receiver 2 years ago. So the offense is going to be more run-centric, whether it's Trey Lance running the option, whether it's Sam Darnold, you want to get the ball out of his hands, pitch and go, give and go. You're going to want to get the ball out of Sam Darnold's hands, get it to your playmakers. Deebo, CMC, George Kittle. I don't see Brandon Aiyuk returning value where he's being drafted. Now let's look at the tight end position. Let's look at Dalton Schultz. Last year, he did finish as a top 10 tight end, so he finished as a tight end 1, and this year he's being drafted as a tight end 1. I believe he's drafted at the 11th spot right now in the tight end position. So he's saying, well, he should be able to finish as a top 10 receiver or top 10 tight end. Why not? Let's not forget, he's not on Dallas's offense no more. He went to the Texans. He's joining Robert Woods, Devin Singletary, and Noah Brown. You got new faces and new places, and that's not including the quarterback. I don't think he's going to return value where he's being drafted at right now. I think he was a one-hit wonder. He's not in that Dallas offense anymore. You don't have Dak Prescott who you're relying on. You got not a lot in Houston to really look forward to. You got DeMeco Ryans as the new head coach. Now let's look at these stats. Houston finished 30th in points last year, which means they just wasn't putting the ball in the end zone. They also finished 31st in yards, 31st out of 32 teams, second to last in the NFL in yardage. They just wasn't making plays. They're not in position to score in 2022. Houston also finished as the 31st rush yards and 30th in attempts, which tells me, 1, they were behind a lot, so they had to throw the ball, and 2, the running backs, they just didn't trust after the main guy went down. DeMeco Ryans is a defensive-first coach, so he wants to win with running the ball, grit out the defense. As far as making passing plays, once again, I don't really think they're going to trust the quarterback. I do think they want to run the ball and grit it out with defense. So I don't think that Dalton Schultz is going to be a top tight end this year. It's really just the proof is in the pudding, as they say. What about quarterbacks? Let's look at Danny Dimes. He's being drafted as a QB1. He's being drafted as a top 12 quarterback. He finished as a QB9 in 2022. Top 10, which is not bad by his standards. But let's look at the context. He only had 3,200 yards passing and 15 touchdowns. I could play in the NFL right now and give you more than 15 touchdowns. Where he made his mark at was at the rushing. He had 700 rushing yards and 7 TDs. So we all know in fantasy football, the rushing adds value to the quarterback. 700 passing yards and 7 TDs compared to 700 rushing yards and 7 rushing TDs is going to give you a lot more fantasy points. What was his main weapons last year? You could say that, well, maybe he didn't have anybody. He had Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins as his leading receivers. Who's his leading receivers in 2023? Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins. They brought in guys like Jamison Crowder and Paris Campbell, but is that really going to move the needle? I'm going to need more than 15 touchdowns from Danny Dimes, and I don't think that he's going to progress that much as a passer. He progressed significantly as a passer in 2022, which still only led him to 15 touchdowns, his best year as a pro. That's not saying a lot. I do think they want to get Saquon the ball. They want to get him more integrated in the offense. He's back. He's healthy. He's back. He's explosive as a top 5 running back. They want to get him as many touches as possible. So I don't think Danny Dimes is going to be taking a lot of the rushing yards again this year, which is why, once again, I don't think he's going to finish as a top 12 quarterback. And last but not least, let's look at the running back position. Let's look at David Montgomery. Right now, let's not forget, once again, he was traded to Detroit in the offseason. Right now, he's being drafted as an RB2. Last year, he finished as an RB2. Right on the cusp, he finished as running back 24. He did miss a couple of games, but he did finish as running back 24. Now, let's answer these questions for me. Is David Montgomery better than Jamal Williams? Yes. Is David Montgomery going to get you 17 touchdowns this year? Probably not. People look at the production that Jamal Williams had last year with the 17 touchdowns and think that, oh, well, David Montgomery is better than Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams finishes a top 12 running back. Why can't David Montgomery do that? Well, once again, that was on the back of 17 touchdowns. Jamal Williams only had 1,100 total yards last year. He had about 1,000 yards rushing and a little less than 200 yards receiving. That's not going to get it done. If you don't get 17 touchdowns, on average, you might get 7 to 10 touchdowns. If he give you 1,100 yards with 7 to 10 touchdowns, that's not going to get it done. Let's also look at DeAndre Swift. Last year, he only played in 40% of the snaps and most majority of the games he played in. 8 out of the 14 games he played in, only 8 of those games he played less than 40 snaps. So he was also battling injury. Yes, we know that. Even when he was healthy, they didn't want to, force him back into the lineup. They wanted to ease into it. And Jamal Williams was having a good year, so why not, give DeAndre Swift the rest that he deserves to look forward towards the future. I do think that DeAndre Swift is going to play a lot more in 2023. So once again, you're talking less than 17 touchdowns, a lot more PT for DeAndre Swift, and I don't think David Montgomery is going to give you that top 12 finish as a quarterback. Why don't you tell me what you think? Follow in the comments below, subscribe, holla at your boy. Bye.